Katrina, lovely to meet you. How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. How are you?
I'm really good. Now, I'm guessing that you're probably a little bit sick about talking about Eurovision.
No, not at all. No, of course not. I mean, every 365 days it's going to come around. And, I'll start running my mouth about it. All of my predictions and everything I say about it have absolutely no bearing and no relevance whatsoever. Except it's really weird because this year, about a month ago, I said Switzerland. There's even proof of it on my website.
Yeah.
I'm in Switzerland. I'm doing a show, and then all of a sudden I go, Switzerland. Why didn't I put money on it a month ago when I had that revelation?
Had that premonition.
Yeah, I did.
Amazing.
I did.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Sure.
We've got a list of your songs. We're going to kick off with, of course, Walking on Sunshine, which is a great song, and it lives on and on and on. It sounds retro futuristic all at once, doesn't it? It always puts you in a great mood. Tell me about this song.
Our feeling always as a band in Katrina and the Waves, we didn't want anything to mark us as belonging to an era or belonging to a genre, and we were hoping that Walking on Sunshine could sound like it would be quite happy in the 60s or somewhere in the future. And so I think we accomplished that with the help of fantastic producer Scott Litt, who took us into this really famous recording studio in New York City called the Power Station, because the song had existed for a couple of years, but it never had the drum intro until Scott Litt.
It was a slow burn, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I thought it was an irritating song. When we were first starting in the 80s, we used to play a lot of clubs, really cool clubs, a lot of clubs in London, the Hope and Anchor, the 101, the Marquee, Dingwalls, the Greyhound or whatever it was called. A lot of them do not exist anymore. And when we played Walking on Sunshine, it was a dance floor emptier. So we really stopped playing it because it was kind of uncool. I mean, it had that You Can't Hurry Love beat. And it wasn't until the Bangles covered a song of ours, which we'll get to later, which got us signed with Capitol Records, and then going into the Power Station and working with the likes of Scott Litt, who worked with Nirvana and the Indigo Girls and REM, he said, let's put a drum intro on it because DJs love to talk over it. So you should do your best DJ voice, Steve. And hello, you're here on Virgin Radio, 80s plus. Because they loved it. And then the ow, which seemed to get the party started. But I mean, it did go on to really, I think, astonish all of us. My most astonishing moment was when Dolly Parton covered the song.
Yeah.
Well, I used to think maybe you love me. And she even changed the lyrics. Now it's time to feel good.
I mean, that must have felt great.
Yeah, of course it did. She opened her show with it, and she had all the fiddles and made it real country. Changed the lyrics from Don't It Feel Good to It's Time to Feel Good.
Yeah.
But if anybody has permission to do anything they want in this world, it's Dolly Parton.
And just as we go into this, what kind of relationship do you have with this track now? Is it still irritating, or have you made peace with it?
100% love. It's like my baby, the baby that went on to go to Harvard and is now very, very successful. Walking on Sunshine has its own career. It doesn't even need me.
Love it. Now we're going to go Wham. Tell me this song that you've put on your list and why.
In 1985, Walking on Sunshine had hit, and it was a feel-good summer. Wham had just hit, and they said, join us on concert. On tour.
Wow.
And we were astonished because these concerts were absolutely massive. So there we were with Shaka Khan, the Pointer Sisters, and Wham. And the boys were absolutely killing it. We used to play football with them backstage. Andrew was very, very good at the football, and George not so. And it was just really fun hanging out with George, and we went dinner with George and Brooke Shields. And it was really funny because we're all wearing the same clothes. Do you remember Hyper?
Yes.
On Kensington Church Street. And do you remember the Kensington Church Street Market?
Yeah, I've seen pictures before, yeah.
And you're just way too young for us to be having this conversation.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm aware.
So we all got our clothes from the same place. So George was always saying, Andrew's got that jacket. And I'm like, okay, well, so we had to decide who was going to be wearing the jackets on stage. So we didn't clash or double up on it. But just such a wonderful band, so feel good. And Freedom just brings it all home for me. I think it's a beautifully constructed song. It's a very, very difficult song to sing, but it always gets the party started.
I must ask you, I saw the Netflix Wham documentary, and it seems like the boys really loved each other, especially at the time we're talking about. They were having the most amount of fun at that time. Is that what you got? Because obviously you knew them and you were on tour with them. What were they like?
You know, I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I'm going to go ahead and sound like an old fuddy-duddy. I think so many young people, they kind of have this, they act a bit entitled, a little bit spoiled. These boys, they had it all. They were incredibly famous, but they were the most, and I know it's a cliche to say it, but they were the most humble people you've ever come across. Sweet and nice and very, very funny, good sense of humor. You wouldn't have thought there was any pressure whatsoever, but of course this was before social media, and it was before, selfies and a lot of, what I call interruptions. Yeah. It was just really pure and really wholesome, and there they were in their cute little shorts.
There we go. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, totally.
Are you enjoying this? We've got Katrina on my 80s playlist. Having a good time?
Yeah, absolutely love it. You'll just have to rein me in a little bit, Steve, because once I get going...
You'll give me so many great stories. There's a particular connection with this Bangles song, isn't there? Tell me about this.
It is. The Bangles are a girl group out of California, and they covered a song of ours, which was called Going Down to Liverpool. They had heard it on some really, really early recording. We had been signed with a small record label in Canada at the time, Attic Records. We were going from the East Coast to the West Coast of Canada, back and forth, trying to make some headway, playing in little clubs, and fighting our way through blizzards and then tumbleweeds and our raccoon
You really worked hard, didn't you, though?
Yeah, everybody did.
You really put the groundwork in.
Oh, everybody did. Everybody went on tour. Everybody was in the Ram van and, trying to make your way through blizzards and tumbleweeds and with the raccoon skin cap. And, there we were in Canada. We were happy as Larry. And then all of a sudden we were doing shows and we started seeing the presence of corporate music business people sitting in the corner taking notes in their little 80s suits. And Capitol Records came back to us and they said, we've seen you guys, we like you, we want to give you a major global worldwide record deal because we know the Bangles covered your song and they're doing really well with it. And the Bangles had covered Going Down to Liverpool, and they had a really intriguing video as well, which had Leonard Nimoy, who somehow Susanna Hoffs is related to or is a family friend. And that's what really got the ball rolling for us, and we always had them to thank. And we always ran into them then from there on out. And I remember being in a really rundown old Holiday Inn. So I think it was in Hollywood or somewhere in LA, and the Bangles were in the same hotel, and we all gone across the street to a certain burger joint and got loads of fast food, and we went back to one of the girls' rooms and we sat on the bed with our cassette player and our cassettes, and we played our new albums to each other. Yeah, so that was the first time I'd heard their version of Going Down to Liverpool.
Did you ever ask them why they picked that song to cover?
They just liked it, and what was really unusual is that Debbie, the drummer, sang it. But then they paid her back by not giving her a line in Walk Like an Egyptian. She didn't sing a note in that. But, I mean, it was great singing and a great cover of it.
So you approve of that cover
Definitely,
version?
Love it.
Okay, great. Don Henley is next. Katrina's with me. We're doing my 80s place. I always think this song, together with Walking on Sunshine, they're the two, when the weather's good, you stick them on. We're 40 years on, and they still work as well as when I used to hear my dad play them on a cassette. Tell me about this song, your relationship with
Listen
this song.
to you, when my grandfather played it to me on an old cassette.
It was my dad.
Oh, whatever.
Not my stop it. Stop that.
Boys of Summer is the most beautifully crafted song, and it came at the time with a video that MTV could not resist. And MTV were very new on the forefront.
Yeah.
It was like the very first time that you could see these artists, see what they look like. And MTV was hugely responsible for breaking a lot of people's careers, because if you had a great video and MTV liked it, then you were like halfway there.
So the video was as important as the song. If you could get both right.
I mean, if you could get on MTV with a fantastic video that everybody loved and was talking about, it was extremely important. Yeah, because you have to remember back then, without social media, it was the only way you could see what the artists looked like.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it was a revelation.
Yeah.
Because people always looked at me and they said, I really didn't think you were going to look like this, because all they'd heard is Walking on Sunshine. I mean, one time we were on Soul Train, a show in America, and I showed up and they said, well, we've got a bit of a problem with you because we thought you were black. And we like to cater exclusively to mostly black performers on Soul Train. But
no way.
They gave me a pass.
It must be interesting because obviously you spent so much time, perfecting your craft, being a singer. Then you've got to think about, the image is really important as well. Did that fit comfortably with you?
No, of course not. I've always had the most god-awful image, and me and stylists, we're chalk and cheese. We don't get along. I can't stand being told what to wear. My uniform now is just basically black because it's just easy. But, I had kind of like a girl next door image. They wanted to dress me up like Chrissy Hind. And then we were the quintessential support group. And this is how we ended up supporting Don Henley from the Eagles. Because he was flying high with the Boys of Summer and Dirty Laundry and lots of great songs from his brand new album.
Yeah.
We started doing a little bit too well for Don. And then this is what you get in America. You get people playing a little bit of silly buggers, and so when it was our time to sound check, they would be mopping the floor very, very slowly.
No
and then
way.
the unions would say, terribly sorry, we've run out of time for you to do your sound check.
That's naughty.
Oh,
isn't it?
That's the way they play it. That's the way they play it.
Wow.
Because, obviously we were doing quite well, and we mustn't overshadow the main act.
Yeah, of course.
But still it stands, Boys of Summer. Oh, what a song. From the first note.
Should we do another one of your songs on
Sure.
Mighty's Place? Katrina, you picked the Katrina and the Waves song. Tell me about this song.
Sure, this song is called Do You Want Crying?
Yeah.
Steve, we were first signed on the strength of this song, not Walking on Sunshine.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, we had a demo tape of 4 songs, which opened with Do You Want Crying. Then I think it had a song called Que Te Quiero, another song called Red Wine and Whiskey, which was immediately banned because apparently it encouraged people to drink and drive. Go figure. There's not a mention of a car in this song. And then lastly, we put Walking on Sunshine so we could kind of end on a happy note. We gave it to all the DJs in America, and they came back and they said, it's the Sunshine song. It's the Sunshine song.
They knew immediately, did
Yeah,
they?
and they said, this is the one. And we were like, really? And so Do You Want Crying didn't get a look in, but we'd spent an awful lot of time and the record company's money, let's face it, it's theirs, on a video which was supposed to be MTV friendly and all shiny and bright, and rented the Thunderbird and the production team.
I mean, that video's fun, isn't it? It looks like you're having a really good time.
Yeah, well, we recorded about 3 o'clock in the morning on top of some skyscraper in Hollywood, and we're driving around in some Thunderbird and in the Andrew Ridgeley jacket that George had said I shouldn't wear at the same time as Andrew. And, it was fun. We were just very, very surprised they didn't go for this song. But I still play it live, and I still think it's a great song. I think out of a lot of our material, it's definitely got that 80s sound. You'll see what I mean.
Yeah. What is it about that it has got that 80s sound?
The 80s sound is you have more of a monotone. You have the bass guitar follows the electric guitar, because back in the day a lot of people couldn't play very well, so they didn't do a lot of creative stuff like you would get from bass players in the 70s, for example. A lot of moving around and all that. It's just pretty much do 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 do, and just doing that, you kind of get the 80s feel, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was as simple as that. Just keep it really simple. So long now. Nothing complicated, very held back. But then, of course, a screeching, all guns blazing chorus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
because
amazing.
it was actually Don Henley who said to me, you should always record things at the top of your range, as high as you possibly can. Which, of course, when you're 23, you're really happy you did that. When you're 64 like me and you still got to hit those notes, it's like, why did we make this song so damn high?
But you do it.
Oh, yeah.
And you still look great doing it, so come on.
That's all that matters.
Katrina, dying to ask you a couple of questions about Eurovision, because you're very, well placed to answer these questions. What do you think of it now? We've just got through another Eurovision, and the amount of controversy, the headlines behind the almost, I thought, this year overtook what Eurovision is about. What do you think about what it's become?
I think I might be slightly losing my connection with Eurovision. I think I don't quite recognize what it's become, and I think that that's generational. I think it's that I'm an old fart.
You're not. Stop saying that.
Yeah, and that it has become a very, very young woman, young man's game. Mm-hmm. When I won in 1997 with the song Love Shine a Light. Do you know everybody around me, all the other contestants, they were a little bit longer in the tooth than you would imagine. I mean, Alla Purgachova was who sang Prima Donna. She was 103, and then there were 4 other gals from Holland, and they were sort of an older version of the Spice Girls, so we called them Old Spice. But apart from all of that, there were 24 contestants, and we all actually got along really, really well.
Yeah.
It was a week of parties in Dublin, which is where it took place, at the Point, which no longer exists. And, it was almost more like a little barn dance than the big affair that it is now. Honestly, you just shuffled out onto the stage. There was one Klieg light, one spotlight, and then you did your song, and then you shuffled off. And then the next act, there was no smoke, fire, the stage didn't move, God forbid, unless Alla Purgachova was on it. It was just a kind of...
It just seemed more fun. I think with obviously the political stuff, that's a whole separate conversation. But people were saying it's over-sexualized this year. It got the least amount of viewers. It's interesting what it's become and whether they're going to have to work on maybe going back to basics and making it more fun, because it wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard to bring something back that's gone this far, because you've now attracted a different kind of crowd, and they're going to be counting on it being this again next year in Switzerland, and the year after that. And if you try and go rein it in to be some wholesome little barn dance like it was when I did it, it's not going to happen. And I have to say, I think you've already lost the people who are looking for a wholesome family affair, sit down on a Saturday night. Yeah. It's too much for some people. And you can say, well, that's a sad thing and blah, blah, boo-hoo, but that's the world. Mm-hmm. That's the world we're in now. You can't get in the way of change. You've got to roll with it and accept it and try and find the good things out of it. Yeah. I just think... I just wish that people would be a little bit more humble, maybe a little bit grateful of the position that they find themselves in to represent their country, and handle it with as much dignity out of respect for their country as they possibly can, and keep it light and keep it within certain boundaries, and always make sure that you're representing your country in the best possible light and not your own agenda.
Well, thank you for what you achieved for us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Because you've gone down in major history, so it's incredible.
It was nothing. I think if you asked people who the last winner of Eurovision was, they'd say Bucks Fizz. But it's okay. I'm used to being ignored. I'm okay with it.
Let me ask you about Shaka Khan.
Sure.
This amazing song, see, with the Prince connection, everything. Tell me about why you picked this one.
Because Shaka Khan just is such a friggin' brilliant woman. There was a rumor, I live in West Hampstead, there was a rumor that she lived in West Hampstead, and I used to walk around and go, where's Shaka at? Where's Shaka at? I thought,
in Tesco Metro.
I'm not going to see Shaka in West... How do I just know I'm not going to see Shaka today in West Hampstead?
Does she live there?
She used to, yeah.
Okay.
But, when I was on this tour with Wham and the Pointer Sisters, Shaka Khan was also on there. Can you imagine that bill?
What a lineup.
I mean, forget about us.
How much was the ticket?
I don't know, probably $22. I mean, back then,
Amazing.
Can you imagine? No phones, no nothing.
You used to have the lighter. Use a lighter if you said light up the room.
Yeah,
all that
sure.
hairspray.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness.
I know, and that was just the Pointer Sisters. They had the longest cigarettes you've ever seen, and they never stopped smoking. You're going to set that wig on fire.
I saw Shaka Khan is singing this year and headlining different festivals.
Yeah,
I mean,
she's amazing.
She's still knocking around.
She's amazing. We used to share a van with her on tour, and she was always in the van with her daughter, and hilarious conversations. And people, if anybody tried to mess with her daughter, said, "Don't you talk to my daughter like that." And she just, laid it on the line. Because she wasn't the main act, Wham were. Everybody was told, now do not go out on the apron at the front of the stage. It's reserved for the boys. And they put these flimsy old flight cases out there and this huge piano on one side and organ on the other side. Shaka walked out there and with 2 shakes of her hip, honey, gone straight out onto the aprons, owning it. Yeah, all those flight cases, pianos, organs, everything they tried to block off, gone. Amazing. Fallen, disappeared. And so I just cheering on a strong, awesome woman.
Perfect. Katrina's with me. We've nearly come to the end, but you're going to be here 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday mornings. What can people expect?
Well, just the very finest, Steve. The finest of everything.
I love you. Actually, it's been so great to meet you. You're everything and more that I expected. So thank you so much for coming in and talking about this.
Thanks for having me.
This Johnny Hates Jazz song, I think, is one of the most perfect pop songs ever because it sounds bubbly, but the lyrics are quite sad. Yeah. I love the vocals. It's got everything. Right.
Well, I'll tell you the story with Johnny Hates Jazz, and the song is Shattered Dreams, and it's a beautifully constructed song and performed. One of the guys in Johnny Hates Jazz is Mike Nacito, who I went to high school with.
No way.
I went to Laken Heath American High School in Suffolk, and he was because he was in a year above me, he was my guitar teacher.
Wow. He was here just a month ago, sat here.
Oh my, and he didn't mention me? He didn't mention that?
No.
That's because we dated for a while, and he probably wants to draw a discreet veil over that. Yeah.
Really?
But I mean...
Why did it fail? No, I don't want to ask that. Come on.
It ran its course. He had this snappy little Porsche, and we thought we were all that, driving around Cambridgeshire in it. I mean, really. But anyway, Mike is a great guy. His brother-in-law is my neighbor, Phil Thornelli, who they both worked at Rack Studios. And Phil was walking by one time, I don't know if you know this, and he said, I've just had this Australian woman because Phil Thornelli is my neighbor, and he worked at Rack Studios, and he was also in the Cure for a while.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and he also was the lead singer of Johnny Hates Jazz for a while. And so he was walking past, and he said, I've just had this Australian singer, and she's decided to leave without finishing up her backing vocals. Can you pop into the studio and do them? And I said, yeah, sure. So I went and I sang backup vocals on the song Torn for Natalie Imbruglia.
No way.
Yeah, so if you listen to Torn, it's me going, hoo, 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 and a little bit in the choruses.
Wow.
Yeah. But back to Mike Nacito from Johnny Hates Jazz, because we then golfed together and we had a bit of a relationship and whatever. And because he's so good in the studio, we asked him to produce Love Shine a Light.
Right.
So he is the producer on our Eurovision song as well. And Mike was paying me back. I don't know quite for what, but normally when I do a vocal, like for a Love Shine a Light, for example, I do it in 2 takes. And so I did my 2 takes of Love Shine a Light and I left. And then Mike said, I just want to work on the very first Love. I said, yeah, no problem. So I came back, love, love, love. Do you see how they all pretty much sound exactly the same?
Yep.
360 friggin' loves later. And I'm like, Mike, these all sound the same to me. Well, they sound different to me. One more. And so I'm there and I'm like, love, 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 love. How do you want it? I'm sure he went back and used the very first love. So anyway, Johnny Hates Jazz and Shattered Dreams. I'm going to forgive him and give he and his band a little spin.
Do you still speak to him?
Yes, we see each other in
good.
concerts and whatnot, and he's
a nice ending
brilliant,
to that
lovely
story.
man. I knew him and his whole family comes from a huge British family, as it happens, and so yeah, I mean that's my Johnny Hates Jazz story. There you go, Mike.
There you
Chill.
go. And why didn't you mention Katrina a month ago? Come on, what's the thing? Listen, lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. Can't wait to hear you. Just to go back on it, Virgin Radio 80s Plus, Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock for the next month. Amazing.
Brilliant. Thank
Katrina,
you so much.
we love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Virgin